Hello Trickster mains, Plato here, and today I'll be bringing you a hot Venator's Knife Trickster build. Fun fact, Knife was my actual favorite Trickster build until I got on the Time Rift bandwagon, since Rift was much superior over Knife prior to Worldslayer. Huge shout out to the Mediocre for being the first to come up with this build to my knowledge all the way back in Beta 1 and more recently brought it back to my attention. While Venator's Knife will be a map-specific pick for speedruns and expeditions versus Time Rift, it is the better overall Trickster build when it comes to trials and expeditions for its ease of use and consistency. Now, Knife is not perfect and it has its own quirks, such as not being able to target enemies while they're spawning, but aside from that, it's bussin'. I'll also be mentioning the term Snapshot frequently throughout this guide, which means we're going to be capturing our Twisted Round's AP to FP conversion. We'll get into more detail on what this is in the later parts of this guide. But snapshotting is a lot easier now than it was before, as we no longer will be using Mage's Rage due to its bug fix nerf. Let's start with our skills. A quick reminder of the set we'll be using. That's right, still Shield Beast, as honestly it is the best Trickster set at the moment in my opinion. Every 1% of shield will be converted to a 1% anomaly power bonus, which caps at 100%. Our first skill will be Hunt the Prey, which in my opinion is mandatory if you're playing like 99% of Trickster builds. Not only is it great for mobility, it's also on a short cooldown that provides us with a shield and a damage amplifier thanks to our class tree nodes. The shield Hunt the Prey provides helps with our survivability, as well as a way to get shield to help with our snapshot with the Shield Beast sets bonus. Moving on to Twisted Rounds, this is going to be our main damage source in the build, and just like all other round-based abilities, infuses our bullets with anomaly-based rounds. This allows rounds to ignore enemy armor, meaning we now go through resistance piercing instead. However, unlike any other round-based abilities, Twisted Rounds is unique in that it converts 35% of our anomaly power into firepower and also snapshots this conversion rate based on your total anomaly power when you activate the skill. You lose the snapshot if you reload, lose rounds, or swap weapons. Our last skill we'll be using is Venator's Knife. Paired with the 4 to 5 Venator's Knife mods we'll be using, more on this a bit later, makes this skill the best it's ever been in Outriders. Along with the new PAX node in Meticulous Schemer, provides all the AoE we need in this build. The new PAX node works best with Knife thanks to the first damage dealt by us being doubled. We also can't forget about the Lies and Deception PAX node, which will also provide us with a shield similar to Hunt the Prey to once again help with our survival and our snapshot. Just like Hunt the Prey, Venator's Knife is also a huge damage amplifier for us thanks to our class nodes. While it doesn't list Venator's Knife as an interrupt ability, it also has a similar effect in that all targets that get hit with Knife get staggered slightly as well as slow being applied. The Venator's Knife mark lasts for 10 seconds, which is hot as it creates the ability for some juicy cross-map clears. Time for our class tree. As usual, we'll be going to quickly cover Trickster's class passives. As Tricksters, we get a whopping 5% increase in our max health, a 5% damage mitigation when we have an active shield, but the most important of them all, each close range kill heals you for 20% of your max HP and also grants us 20% shield. Now, how do we know what close range is? Well, pay attention to your minimap lines. Each line is 10 meters in range. As long as enemies are within that first line, you're going to be in close range. The shield we get when killing in close range also again helps with our survivability and as well with our snapshot. Heading over to what nodes we'll be running for our class tree, we'll be primarily focusing on bottom tree for anomaly power, resistance piercing, counter shield for the 50% anomaly power boost for 10 seconds after we use our deception skill, and combat shields timeline for a 50% anomaly power boost when we use a movement skill for 10 seconds. We then go top tree to pick up our weapon damage nodes, shotgun master for increased shotgun damage, cooldown nodes for deception and movement skills, disruptive firepower for 35% weapon damage increase when using our deception skill for 8 seconds, and Outriders executioner for 35% weapon damage increase when using our movement ability for 8 seconds as well. If you'd like, you can also opt out of Arms Trick for a 15% increase in close range weapon damage to get an extra concentration node if you really want on the bottom tree, but honestly, I really can't tell the difference between either of these nodes in damage, so use whatever works best for you here. For our PAX tree, we'll be going bottom tree starting with Triggerman. Damage is increased by 15% for each skill on cooldown. Lies and Deceptions is next, which was the PAX tree node I alluded to earlier. This allows us to ramp up shields using V-Knife, which again helps with our survivability as well as our snapshot. We then take fail-safe protocols, which gives us a 50% shield when our HP drops below 30%, as well as a 20% damage mitigation bonus for 3 seconds. This has an internal 10-second cooldown, and yes, it also helps with our survivability and our snapshot. Then we move on to goals beyond understanding, as any elites tagged with the deception skill, in our case Venator's Knife, has a 25% chance to be increased by 200%. Lastly, we'll be taking Meticulous Schemer, which makes this build really shine with Venator's Knife. 200% of killing damage on enemies tagged with deception skills is divided amongst other tagged enemies. What do I always say? Every build in Outriders, for it to be truly on the top of my list, needs some form of AoE. With Meticulous Schemer, you can tag enemies with knife, wait, shoot one enemy, and watch everything else die instantly, and yes, this includes elites. As for Ascension Points, the first 10 into anomaly damage. From there, we can go things like anomaly power, resistance pierce, close range damage, weapon damage, damage to elites, increased mag size, and so on. You know what I'm going to say here, the order doesn't really matter after anomaly damage in my opinion, as you'll get Ascension Points quickly to spec into all of it eventually. It's time to cover our gear, starting with our weapons. Our primary weapon will be the Death Shield with Fortress, Anomaly Enhancement, and Dark Sacrifice. Fortress comes natively on the Death Shield and is a great mod for our build as shots increase your current armor and resistance by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. At max stacks, the buff is doubled and additionally grants 25% damage increase for 10 seconds. The 0.2 second cooldown is the cooldown in between these stacks. Fortress is great as we can get the max stack super quickly for the 25% damage increase. Do note that in order to get the resistance bonus from Fortress, you need to have base resistance from either class nodes, mods, and in our case, our 10% resistance from our Ascension Points. Just keep in mind that even if you have 0% resistance, we don't use Fortress for the armor or resistance buff, we use it for the 25% increase in our damage. The armor and resistance is just a nice bonus to have. The second mod is Anomaly Enhancement, providing us with a passive firepower boost equal to 40% of our anomaly power. Since we're using Shield Beast, this is a great pairing for hot damage with the AP to FP conversion. The Apocalypse mod is Dark Sacrifice for a massive 35% increase in weapon damage. With the latest patch, Mage's Rage is a shell of itself and no longer best in slot. Dark Sacrifice takes its place and also makes snapshotting a lot easier. Focus on either Fortress or Anomaly Enhancement, or Dark Sacrifice and Anomaly Enhancement if you can get all 3. Your only choice here doesn't have to be a Death Shield, as a purple shotgun is best in slot if you can get one with either crit damage, close range damage, and whatever third attribute with either Fortress or Dark Sacrifice on the Apocalypse mod slot, with Anomaly Enhancement as the T2 mod. Moving to our secondary weapon, we have a standard pump shotgun, which is the best type for its high base damage. We're using Enoch's Blessing as this is a lot easier to loot. The mods we're using are Anomaly Enhancement, Gravedigger's Frenzy, and Dark Sacrifice. We're forced with Gravedigger's Frenzy here, and it's pretty much a dead mod. The god roll for our pump shotgun is going to be the same as our primary, but a pump version with Dark Sacrifice and Fortress Apocalypse with Anomaly Enhancement as the secondary mod. So why are we using a pump shotgun for a secondary? Simple. Pumps have the biggest benefit of our PAX node in Meticulous Schemer due to its insane base damage. This allows for even hotter one-tap clears with Schemer versus our Death Shield. For me, I use pumps in places where I know there's going to be a lot of elites, as you can set up knives plus Schemer on mob enemies and profit with its massive damage from Schemer with those one-taps. Death Shield is used for places where there are a lot less elites and more mob enemies. You can choose to main either Death Shield or a standard pump shotgun for the whole map and be just fine. If you like min-maxing, go with the suggestion I made. Our pistols really don't matter for this build, so we're going to skip it. You can pretty much use whatever pistol you want. Moving on to our gear, the attributes we want to focus on for our non-set pieces would be Anomaly Power and Close Range Damage. For the third slot, you can do Status Power or Skills Life Leech if you're lucky enough to get those rolls, but ultimately, doesn't matter. As a reminder, we'll be using the Shield Beast set. Every percent of shield increases our anomaly power by 1%, up to 100%. For our headpiece, we have the Shield Beast helmet with Strong Twist, Sniper Blades, and Instant Reload. Strong Twist is super key here as it increases our weapon's firepower by 20%. What this doesn't tell you is that the 20% is of our current anomaly power that gets converted into firepower, not 20% of our current firepower. Our second mod is Sniper Blades, and this one can be a flex mod if you choose so. This mod increases the skills range of Venator's knife by 50%. This mod, in my opinion, is mandatory for trials, and depending on which expedition you want to run, it's not required and you can swap it out for a damage or defensive mod of your choice. Some expos are really small, so you don't get that much value out of Sniper Blades, but that's more of a nitpick if you're into speedrunning. I'd say stick with Sniper Blades over wall and use your best judgment if you want to swap it out. For Apocalypse mod that we're using on our headpiece, we have Instant Reload. Not much needs to be said about this mod, as getting ammo back on using Hunt the Prey is key for any firepower Trickster build. Our chest, we have the Shield Beast's vest with Boomerang Blades, Skull Piercer, and Captain Hunter. Boomerang Blades is a mandatory mod if you're using Venator's knife, as it allows the blades to come back and tag more enemies. For mod number 2, we have Skull Piercer. Not the best mod, not the worst mod, but just fine for our build. While we have Twisted Rounds active, critical damage is increased with every critical shot up to 20%, and this lasts until the skill ends. The Apocalypse mod on our chest is Captain Hunter, providing us with that 16% damage versus elites. Like I always say, every build needs this mod. Heading down to our pants, we have the Shield Beast trousers with the mods Eager Edges, No Escape, and Ammo Bargain. Eager Edges is another mandatory mod when using Venator's knife, as it adds 2 additional bounces during the ricochet path. This allows our knife to hit up to 7 enemies instead of 5. Our second mod is No Escape, another mandatory mod which increases the skill's effective range between targets by 25%. You may not think this is worth it, but trust me when I say it most definitely is. 25% is actually a substantial increase in the effective range in between the targets and allows for better hot AoE clears. For Apocalypse mod, we have Ammo Bargain for the 30% ammo back on kills when using Twisted Rounds. The instant reload mod for Hunt the Prey will not be enough to consistently replenish our rounds without it being awkward and ruining the gameplay flow. Ammo Bargain solves this problem as we don't want to be using Hunt the Prey as our main source of getting rounds back. Hunt the Prey is used primarily for movement, repositioning on a primary target, and setting up hot clears. As for our gloves, we're running the Shield Beast gloves instead of purple gloves due to the Cut Them Deep mod it comes with, which is another mandatory mod for this build. Elites marked by the knife receive 30% more damage. Any elite marked will also have a red knife symbol over their head versus the original blue due to this mod. The other 2 mods we have are Power Assimilation and Arms and Anomaly. Power Assimilation provides us with an AP increase by X for each elite present on the battlefield. Quick reminder as always that Alpha Preferos also count as elites, making this mod have more value on monster maps. The Apocalypse mod here is Arms and Anomaly for the massive flat AP bonus when we land a crit shot for 6 seconds. Lastly, we have our boots. We have a damn nice roll on these purples with Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Close Range Damage. A quick reminder to never skip on vendor hopping. The mods we're running are Anomaly Echo, Phantom Dash, and Unstoppable Force. Anomaly Echo kills 2 birds with 1 stone, providing us with a nice flat AP and FP boost. For our second mod, we have Phantom Dash to replace our default roll, allowing us to pass through enemies. I played a lot with and without Phantom Dash, and have to say it's really great to have when using Venator's knife, as you can animation cancel the knife animation with a dodge roll. Since you'll be doing this a lot, being able to pass through enemies is nice for quality of life. The last mod we'll be using is Unstoppable Force to increase our anomaly power by 50% of our resistance piercing. This is just the best mod that can roll on boots for this build, and while we don't get that much value with our resistance pierce only being at 30%, it's better than nothing. Some really great alternative for boots are going to be Footgear of the Cannonball and Torturer's Footgear. If you don't happen to come across a purple version, Footgear of the Cannonball comes with Phantom Dash and Torturer's Footgear comes with Anomaly Echo. Just note that Torturer's Footgear is a Pyro-specific legendary drop, so you will need to have a Pyro and then transfer it over to your Trickster. If you're not a fan of Phantom Dash, I recommend using Torturer's Footgear so you can swap out Phantom Dash for whatever mod you'd like. Now that we've covered our gear, let's talk about snapshotting. Earlier, when I went over Twisted Rounds, I mentioned that Twisted Rounds are unique in that when activated, it'll permanently convert 35% of your total anomaly power into firepower. With our Strong Twist mod, this is bumped to 55%. This is where snapshotting comes in and why it's going to be important on this build to get a proper snapshot so we can get those huge DPS numbers. Ideally, we want to stack as much anomaly power as possible, have max shields, then pop Twisted Rounds and profit. The ideal combo would be to launch Venator's Knife, into a Hunt the Prey, into a crit to proc Arms and Anomaly, into a kill to proc our close range shield, and then pop Twisted Rounds. The great thing about this build is that you don't need a perfect snapshot at all. Did you miss a crit? Who cares? You'll still be blasting. Did you forget max shields for the Shield Beast shield to AP conversion? Who cares? You'll still be blasting. Don't stress too much about the snapshot if you're new to this, and you'll get the feel for consistent snapshotting the more you play this build. Now, how do we know that we got a good snapshot? The best way to tell if you got a good snapshot is to check your weapon damage value in your inventory by accessing the stats sheet. Make sure you still have Twisted Rounds active from when you did your snapshot, and this is important, let your anomaly power value decay all the way down. Then, check the stats sheet and look at your weapon damage. If it's around 600% and higher, then you had a nice snapshot. If it's lower, that's fine too. As long as it's not like 200% or lower, you can be satisfied enough with the snapshot you took of your Twisted Rounds. These values can change depending on a good amount of interactions and gear and your level, so do keep that in mind. Just use this as a general tool to measure your snapshot. Time for your favorite segment, the tips and tricks. You can animation cancel Venator's knife animation by inputting a dodge roll after casting the knife. This allows you to get your gun out and blast a tad bit faster. Learn to be a bit patient at times when it comes to your knives. Let it bounce to more targets for hotter AoE clears with Schemer. Remember, we have a lot of knife mods assisting us in this in Boomerang Blades, No Escape, Eager Edges, and so on. Use Death Shield when there is lots of mobbing and less elites, and Pumps when there are lots of elites and less mobbing, although you can use either gun full time and still profit. This is more of a min-maxing kind of thing. Take advantage of Schemer's insane 200% damage split. When knives are on enemies, there's no reason to shoot the elite. Instead, one tap a mob enemy and watch everything fall over. This is more consistent with the higher damage of pump shotguns. The Venator's knife mark lasts for 10 seconds. This allows you to knife a group, TP to another group, knife them, and watch the red dots disappear with the Schemer proc. Try not to ADS too much with the Death Shield. Its hipfire spread is OP for hot damage. The opposite goes for pump shotguns. I actually find it better to ADS with pumps, but there are times where you don't need to. Don't stress about a perfect snapshot. It's really not that big of a deal. Make sure you try to stay in close range for maximum damage output, and this applies more to pump shotguns. As a refresher, this is 10 meters. Each line on the minimap indicates 10 meters in range. If you're using an auto shotgun, in our case the Death Shield, it is better to hold the trigger instead of tapping the trigger. Holding equals faster fire rate, which equals more damage. That's it for this Trickster build, guys, everybody, and as always, you can check out all of my other Outriders Worldslayer content in the video description down below, as well as a few of them popping up right about now. Don't forget to send me that follow on Twitch at twitch.tv/PlayDohBear, and also click that link in the pinned comments to join the Discord and hang out with the homies. I'd appreciate it if you can also like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until the next one, peace.